And the one thing I wanted to get in straight away is because everyone has different opinions. Anthony Martial saying Martial's leaving. Obviously, we will talk about that a little bit later in the show. But where were you before today, Rodney, in relation to Mourinho? And has he enhanced your opinion that he's the right man? Changed your mind a little bit? I can't remember where you said you were before.
I was always a Jose in. Always a Jose in. I mean, I hadn't changed. I mean, with all of the things that went on before in terms of players not being picked and rotation of individuals, we questioned Sanchez's position, whether that upset the apple cart in terms of Pogba and Martial. I was always a Jose in. So the result hasn't really changed anything for me. I think that there will be, I think many people will change their opinion of him. Not necessarily after this game, but I think next season.
Yeah, I mean, I've just asked a lot of people in the live comments. Obviously, we're live, so do get cracking in there. And I know, and I respect a lot of people from the United stand and United fans in general were Mourinho out. It sounds stupid when you've had a great result like that yesterday, and I think some people feel quite ashamed about it. But don't be ashamed about it. I think you had reason to be it. As I said, and as I tweeted yesterday, I was so glad at half-time yesterday, Rodney, that I didn't utter those words. I've had enough of Mourinho now. I wouldn't even say I was on the verge. I wasn't, but I know a lot of people did. They felt humiliated, embarrassed. But for me, it was all about the players yesterday in the first half. I didn't see any difference in the tactics. It's just the players in the first half.
The players in the first half, they looked like they were found wanting. You know, if anyone could honestly say that what they saw in the first half, they would have been happy with. I doubt there would have been anyone, even though Jose did say he was happy with the midfield play. The first half for the hero of the day, or the hero of the 45 minutes, he looked like he was lost. He didn't look the player that people saw towards the end of the game. And I think the result, or should I say the scoreline at half-time, could have been a lot harsher than it was.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot harsher.
I mean, Biosphere here, to be fair, thanks for the contribution. He says, I've got no respect for Jose. We won because City had the game against Liverpool on their minds and they didn't play with a striker for most of the match. Also remember, Jose still parks the bus, not changed. I mean, I've got to pick him up on two things. I mean, I think he's right to a certain extent. The Liverpool game is obviously like a hangover to them. If Sterling could hit if he could finish his dinner, then we would have been finished at half time. It should have been 3 or 4-0. But I refuse to argue and fight against this part of the bus nonsense. And I heard Danilo saying after the game, "Oh, they beat us with long ball." I mean, that's why City's defence is struggling if he's got people in it who think carving them open is a long ball. I mean, it wasn't part of the bus, was it? It wasn't good in the first half, but it wasn't part of the bus.
No, in the first half, you'd say it was dire, but it wasn't part of the bus. I think in the first half, Manchester United did not, they weren't at the races at all. Mentally, physically, positionally, in anything that you want to talk about in terms of football, Manchester United were lacking. And it could have been, you say 4, it could have been 5-0 at halftime. You know, if they'd have taken their chances, it could have been 5-0.
It definitely could. And a lot of people are saying that in the live comments. Good comment here from Shane Carey. He says, I think that the fans and the manager need to meet each other halfway, give and take on both sides. Look, if you are still Mourinho out, as I said to you, even if we'd lost yesterday, he's here for another year. Do you want to put yourself through all this torment and pain for another year? I mean, the big thing for me, Rodney, is, and I wouldn't say I've been having a running battle with the community because I respect the community and everyone's got their own opinion, but I have had people saying a leopard never changes his spots, Mourinho's not going to change. For me, he has changed in the last 3 games. He verbally said he had against, was it Huddersfield or Swansea? And sorry, Brighton, then Swansea, then yesterday. There was no evidence of parking the bus for me. It wasn't park the bus. It looked like we feared them once first goal went in, says Danny Green. Yeah. And I would agree with that. I thought the first half performance from the players was a joke. And I've got to put my hand up and say that I actually said this at half time, that that's a disgrace for Mourinho to let that 11 players come out for the second half. I would have subbed 3 of them off. And fair play, whatever he said at half time clearly worked. And you know, to be fair, I don't know what went wrong with City, but we deserved the result we got.
No, I mean the result in itself is fantastic. Deserved the victory in the second half. Most definitely. What he said, I mean, Smalling gave an indication of what he said, whether that was an abbreviated version or there was more, you'll never know. But the application was clear to see. There was more drive, more passion, more a considered level of play between the Manchester United players. They're actually looking up and actually looking for each other instead of like small bouts of individualism, hoping to win a game. It was a team effort in that 45 minutes. Definitely was a team effort.
Theon Curtin says there's rumours that Sir Alex Ferguson went into the dressing room. And I don't know whether that's because I said it in the second half yesterday. I'd be stunned if he did. But whatever went on in that dressing room at half-time, you've got to applaud Mourinho as the manager, because they were a different team in the second half from a very difficult situation. Many teams would have sank.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I can imagine that what Smalling has indicated, that he said, you don't want to be the clowns that watch them lift the title. I can imagine him saying exactly that and nothing more. Because when you have a group of players that their confidence is so low, and they have, an endless amount of ability, what can you actually say to them to make them any better or any worse, or for them to actually realise that the game in front of them is still within reach? It's 2-0, and there have been so many times in the history of football where people have said 2-0 at half-time is the worst scoreline to have.
Yeah.
Because it for whatever reason, and I've played games where, you're winning 2-0, and whatever happens in the second half, you just think, how did we lose that game? Or how did we draw that game? You just don't know, because the team that goes in that deflated, realising that they could have been humiliated, physically and utterly emotionally humiliated, have to come out and say to themselves, we can't play like that again. There's no way on earth that we can play like that again. So I don't think Mourinho said anything too extensive. I believe that his words would have been short and to the point.
It's a bit like 99. Sir Alex Ferguson said something along the lines of, at half-time when we were losing to Bayern Munich, he says, when you walk past that trophy on the way out, realise that might be the closest you get to it if you mess this up. And sometimes the simple words plant a seed in the mind. And Pogba was a different player in the second half. I mean, fair play to Jared on the watch-along in the first half. He said, get Pogba out my club. There's no problem with that. What I don't like, and I've seen a lot of it on social media today, is people hunting down fellow United fans' tweets from the first half and mocking them now. Anybody who had a go at United in the first half, whether it's Mourinho or the players, I applaud you. It was shit. It was really bad, and I swear, because it was. There's nothing wrong with that. What they did in the second half was rescue it.
Yeah, Mark, do you know something? I have spoken to you many times, and I don't think if anyone were to go back and listen to any of your shows, there will be any hiding that I'm not necessarily a Pogba fan. I've said consistently for weeks, probably months, he hasn't delivered. He hasn't delivered.
First goal since Arsenal, I think, in November.
Yeah, he hasn't delivered. And that 45 minutes shows me that there is a player in there that we've been expecting to see from the moment he arrived 2 years ago. It'll be nearly 2 years since he's been at the club, and the fans have got to say that's the first time we've seen that performance against the top team when we needed it. We needed it.
I don't think there's any coincidence to that. I'll come back to that in a moment, because Shinji Gagawa's made a contribution. Thank you. He says, criticism of Jose is excessive. He's undervalued. 2 trophies last season. The comebacks against Burnley, Palace and City this year demonstrate Jose's nous. He's doing very well in the current climate. They are very good. Like I said, not many teams can do that. And Robert Fahy says, mentality-wise, yesterday was the biggest result in the Mourinho era for both him and especially the players. Massive result on so many levels, and we must kick on to it. But there are many layers to that result, which we're going to talk about tonight. But sticking with what Rodney said there about Pogba, when I did the preview on Thursday lunchtime, I said, I don't think Mourinho is going to do this, but having seen what Liverpool did, and having said this many times against Man City, you can't beat Man City with McTominay, Fellaini in the midfield. They're too tall, they're too slow. We've actually got one midfielder who suits playing Man City, and we've hardly used him this season. We used him yesterday. Manchester Evening News gave him 4 out of 10. I mean, that is just, as I said on Twitter, it's like saying Jesus didn't have a part in the nativity play. It was ridiculous to give him that. He was fantastic. And
it was a very good game for him.
But the amazing thing is, on this channel, I've been very, people say you're deluded the way you back Mourinho. I love Herrera. He gets it, whether it's spitting on the City badge as he walked past it at half time, or whether it's fighting with Jesus or whatever. He won't always have a great game, but he gets what United's all about. I'd give him the armband over Valencia every day of the week and Sunday, but not on so many layers. That midfield three to me, Rodney, is perfect. It's the one we thought we were going to get in the summer. It's taken till bloody April for it to happen. God knows what Mourinho's been playing at all season. Putting Fellaini, he started off with Fellaini for the first month in the midfield three. We've had McTominay. He's ignored Herrera all season, and then the best game we've played all season, the only team to go to City and win this year, and we did it because we had a balanced midfield. It's perfect in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no complaints about the way they played. Herrera, I've not necessarily been a fan of him, because I've always questioned what he adds to the team. But yesterday, second half, you could see everything that was. I mean, it was just a fantastic performance. To say that he only got 4 out of 10, that's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh.
It's idiots who clearly don't understand football because
that's a bit harsh. 4 out of 10. I'm like. No, not in a game where you win. Not in a game where you seem to be down and out, and the City fans are getting ready to have their little parade around the ground. That was a fantastic game.
The assist on the Pogba goal was. Yeah. You know what? I tell you what. If David Silva or De Bruyne did that, Sky Sports would be making a program about it. It was absolutely brilliant. And everyone wants to talk about Sanchez, and we will talk about him. And Pogba's got the goals, but the assist by Herrera, who's a box-to-box midfielder. It was brilliant. The way he chested that down, me and Robbie would have ran through and finished that.
Listen, I would have. Listen, the chest down was fantastic. That was, where you just kind of, you can do nothing else but applaud the chest. Because it's deliberate. He's looking for his player. It's measured. The control is so good. You just literally think all he needs to do is go along and lace his boots. It's fantastic. So for me, that was one of his best games. I'd say that was a better game than the one against Chelsea, when people talked about him kind of putting Hazard in his pocket, because it was in a position, in a sense that he would contributed to a goal, and the way he contributed to the goal, you've got to look at it and think he meant to do that. That was no fluke. That was fantastic.
Andrew Kay says, tenacious, aggressive, good on both sides of the ball, works hard, vocal leader. Herrera should be in the 11 for sure. I agree. And, it's one of the words I use when I say what Manchester United need. I've been saying it for a year. We need tenacity in the midfield, and Herrera does bring that. And I don't know what's gone wrong this season. It's not form. It's nothing to do with that. There's been a fallout between Mourinho and Herrera. It's abundantly clear. He was player of the year last year, and he didn't even start this season. He starts with Fellaini. There's something really wrong. And look, Mourinho's made mistakes. I can see people in the live comments having a pop at Mourinho, but all I've said is Sevilla destroyed me. It did. But I made a conscious decision on the international break. I was just going to say, is he going to change? And if he's going to change, everything in the past is forgotten. Even winning the trophies. But Sevilla's definitely forgotten. Let's see if he can change. And I feel that he has. And it's sad that it's taken this long to put that midfield three out, but he's got to stick with that now, Rodney, because it was the fundamental part that allowed Pogba to have... In that midfield three, Matic will sit, Herrera will go box to box, and Pogba will go box to box, but with a slight leaning towards attacking.
Yeah, I mean, you expect now that midfield three to see out the rest of the season. It's so pivotal that they are there now against Spurs and for the remaining games of the league. And like you said, you don't know what went wrong between Jose and Herrera. He fell out with him. I mean, I don't know what went wrong in terms of the team cohesiveness, because they seem to get on really well on social media and loads of laughs and jokes. But on the pitch, we've not seen that. We've not seen that level of performance all season. And people literally have to scratch their heads and think, where has there been a performance like that this season that has been so good? And to see it in the second half of the game as well. Because United have usually played well in the first 45, as they did. And then they literally just, like the second half, it's like they forget what they did in the first 45. So, brilliant.
And you know what? Look, I'm going to say this, that I'm not running away with myself, and I don't know whether you are, Rodney. It's one game, and actually it's not even one game. It's 45 minutes. You can't include the first half, can you? So
No.
And Spurs is coming. I mean, we should beat West Brom, we should beat Bournemouth, but the Spurs game at Wembley is going to be very tough. And if we got annihilated by Spurs in 2 weeks' time, we'll be here on that Sunday night saying maybe it's not that good. It's all about steps. And I think Brighton and Swansea were the 2 games after the international break, and I felt that they were little steps forward. Again, Swansea, we played well in the first half, bad in the second half. Against City, bad in the first half, good in the second half. We've got to work towards a game and a half and then a game. And we were lucky that the game wasn't out of reach at half time. But the second half, on the other hand, if you're going to be really negative, which I understand, you've also got to jump on the positive, which is second half, 2-0 down, they're going for the title, it's at their place, everyone's against us, we made it hard for ourselves, and the players responded to that. And as Ahmed Hamada says, Pogba deserves more backing from the fans. 2 goals, kissing Sanchez on the forehead, fights with City players, telling fans all paper talk is rubbish and banging the badge. He killed most of the rumours about him. But, you know what, Rodney? He did it in one half. And that's why the pendulum still is a bit like that, but it's definitely progress.
It's progress. I mean, that's the most animated I've seen him in the game, and he did do really, really well. And the goals were really good. You know, first goal, second goal, great. But I'm greedy. I want more. I want more from someone that you paid £90 million for. I want more than just 45 minutes in the season. There have been more highlights in his hair than there have been highlights on the pitch. This is just one of them. You know, so. If Manchester United lose against Spurs, people will come back down to earth very quickly. The games against West Brom, people will expect to win. But we know they're not going to be easy games. No. They're not going to be easy games.
Sam Morgan says, did you know Lincoln won the Checker Trade Trophy today? Give us a shout out. There you go, Lincoln. I didn't know. But I said the first half we lacked composure and confidence. The second half we did show fight, and the comments are right. Pogba looked like he was up for a fight in the second half. A lot of players were up for a fight in the second half, and City can't deal with that. Liverpool showed them that. They can't deal with that. But we don't normally fight, and we do need to fight. And the one area of the pitch that I felt didn't even improve in the second half, Rodney, was the right-hand side. Valencia is meant to be the captain. You know, you may as well just put that captain's armband on the goalpost. There's no personality from Valencia, is there? There's no leadership there.
He's a very he's a robust player. I
like him as a player, but he's not a captain, and we need a captain.
But he's not a captain. There's no leadership, and I don't know that there are certain tweets, social media messages talking about who the captain should be. Should be Herrera. Should be I think there's. For me, there's one person who's been really consistent, even when they had a bad patch, but they've done really well. You could even look at Lukaku as a future captain as Manchester United, because he's
come at a time. What did Lukaku do wrong yesterday? I saw a lot of people giving him a stick, but where was the service?
Nothing. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything. He did exactly what he needed to do in a game of this stature. He occupied a number of the defenders when he needed to, which gave Pogba the space to move forward. Because if you have a striker that's not going to move around and not going to cause the back four problems, anyone who's coming from midfield in an attacking sense needs to see space. They can only attack space. They're not going to run into a defender. So Lukaku did very well for me. I think the second half was a really, really good performance from everyone. Really good performance.
Adiva Singh says, we're progressing under Jose. It's just that bloody Sevilla game that put a dampener on our season. What makes it worse is that they just conceded 4 goals against Celta Vigo and right now are 7th in the league. That's about the 5th time since Christmas they've let more than 3 goals in. And Gorty1231 says, United are making enough runs behind the defensive oppositions, hence costing the season. Sanchez was brilliant with 2 quality assists. He says, we've not been running in behind, which I remember Paul Robinson ringing in and saying about Martial, why does he never do that? And he's just said, Lukaku gets no service at all. Look, the Sevilla game, we can go on and on about it, and I agree 100%, it still really hurts. But if we'd approached the Sevilla game like we approached the City game, we would be in the quarterfinals. For some reason, Mourinho decided, I'm going to be conservative and park the bus, and we did that against a team that has got a defence like it's like a poppadom catching a bowling ball. It just disintegrates. But for some reason we went conservative. But you've got to move on from it, because he's not doing that at the moment. If he goes back to doing that, throw pelters at Mourinho again. I agree with that. But at the moment he isn't doing that, and he certainly didn't do it yesterday. And Spurs is the next big one as well for that. But I do want to just mention, I mentioned the right-hand side. I actually think that I want to bring sort of suppose let's call it a shit sandwich. We started positive. We'll go through the issues and then we'll finish with the positives. But I want to bring Martial into this, but I also want to talk about Lingard. There was a very good comment on the watch along yesterday, and they said that another big game and Lingard goes missing. And I thought Lingard was the invisible man against Sevilla. I thought he was the invisible man against Brighton, and I thought he was the invisible man yesterday. I think I was actually happy with Lingard starting yesterday, and I'm not throwing him under the bus for the performance. I just thought he was very, very quiet. I feel his best position is out on the right, but maybe not. Based on yesterday, I thought he was very, very quiet, like I say. And against someone like Delph, that was an area to exploit. Yeah. He's played his best football as a number 10, but if we play that 4-3-3, which is my question really, do you think that 4-3-3 suits us better, and then you've got Lukaku up front with a player on the left and a player on the right, or do you think we should be playing a midfield 2 and accommodating Lingard as a 10, where he plays his best football?
I think when you talk about the specifics of Lingard as a player, his best position is central. He doesn't have the physicality to play out wide. One, because to play out wide, you need to have an engine, a constant engine, and there are times when Lingard doesn't necessarily have that. He's great sprinting with the ball forward, but when you play out wide, you've got to be able to track back as well and put a shift in. And if you do that, I think and it's easy to say it takes away from his game. But I think what United need to focus on, it isn't about what's best for individual players, it's about what's best for the team.
Yeah. I think he's an on and off player, isn't he? I think I've always called him a bench player, and somebody just said it there, I think it was Michael or somebody, likened him to Solskjaer. And Solskjaer was brilliant. But he was a bench player. There's nothing wrong with being a bench player for United. And I think Lingard has got that burst of pace that... He's an explosive player, and I don't feel, especially in the big games, he's a 90-minute player. I think he might have been a good player to bring on for the last 20 minutes yesterday. But again, I just feel that Lingard's a squad player, and I've got no problem with that at all. But what I was going to come to is, I think for now, like I agree with you, I think, and next season, because we'll strengthen the midfield, I think we've got to play a midfield 3. It's got to be Pogba, Matic, and Herrera, and then hopefully, Carrick's going to retire, Fellaini goes, let's bring another couple of midfielders in and really have a lot of strength in that midfield 3 that we can manoeuvre it and change it for different games, but always a midfield 3 to give Pogba that licence to get forward, which means you've got Lukaku up front, a left-sided player and a right-sided player. Now, I'm a big fan of Anthony Martial. I do want to talk about that, but I want to come back to the right side and what we do about that, because Bale is... I think if you stick Gareth Bale on that right-hand side, as much as people are saying, I don't want Gareth Bale, he's too old, if we're playing that system yesterday, Bale's not to replace Martial, because Bale plays on the right anyway. So if you had Lukaku, you had a midfield 3 of Pogba, Matic and Herrera, or Milankovic-Savic or whoever we buy, Sanchez on the left, Lukaku up front and Bale, you've suddenly got a very, very good team. Yeah,
I mean, Bale, I'm like you, I'm not necessarily keen on Manchester United doing any business with Real Madrid at all. But as a player, hypothetically being at Manchester United, if he was on the right-hand side, it would make it would actually add more impetus in the attack, because when Mata plays on that side, he doesn't have the acceleration to get away from players. Very good.
Which I think in a front 3 is very important, that pace, isn't it?
Yeah. You need at least a decent level of pace. You don't have to be lightning quick, but you need to be, able to accelerate. Mata doesn't have that, but Bale does, and Bale would cause a different set of problems that's currently available for Manchester United. So, it's not that I'm trying to push Mata out. That's the only player I can think of on that side that would be shifted out if Bale were to come in. And I'm not even mentioning Martial, because I don't see Martial on the right-hand side. It's not his best position at all, being on the right.
Well, we'll bring Martial in now. I've just got to read this comment from Callie Sewell. Thank you, Callie. He says, do you think we will still need a centre midfielder this summer if Herrera keeps playing well and stays in on the team sheet, enjoying the show in America? 100%. I think we need 2 midfielders, because if you think about it, all we'll have next season, if Fellaini and Carrick go, is that midfield 3 and McTominay. So, you need 6. If you're playing a midfield 3, you need 6 midfielders, because fatigue, injury, loss of form. Yeah, so we need to replace Fellaini and Carrick and keep the 4 that we've got. And I'm happy to McTominay to keep developing, keep Herrera as well. But yeah, we need to sign 2 midfielders. But let's bring Martial in. you know, Martial, I absolutely love him. I do agree that if we let him go, he will go off and be a De Bruyne or Salah. But you know what? My feelings are in it now that we've had the last 2 games he's been on the bench. He's not been used for 1 minute, I don't think, unless he came on at the very end against Swansea. Yesterday, he took Sanchez off and brought Rashford on. So he's not even Sanchez's understudy. It's Rashford. So Martial is so far down the pecking order now. It doesn't look good, does it? I mean, what's your thoughts on it? I don't see Sanchez is his man. I don't agree with it. I saw a lot of people saying yes. Go on, Rodney, go.
I was just saying. I mean, you know, I like Sanchez, and again, for me, Sanchez is what. Yeah, I think actually he could be central, really, and then Martial or Rashford would be on the left. I think that the problem is that when you've got Lingard playing centrally, then Sanchez can't play there, so he gets shifted out. So if you want to put Sanchez central, then the option of having Rashford and Martial isn't necessarily an issue. The issue is
back to midfield too, don't we?
Exactly, yeah. You go back to a midfield too. So it's, you know, Martial's. There's going to be a question in terms from him as a player as to whether he wants to stay and fight, or if the rumours that have been circulating around is that he's been looking at other clubs or he's not happy. You know, I see him. I've always said that he's one of the most technically gifted young players there is at Old Trafford, but there was a period when he didn't apply it in terms of him losing the ball, but he would go past players as if they're not there. I want to see him in the team, but he's not getting a chance that we would like. But when he does he always take it?
I mean, I just want to interject there because there was a comment yesterday from somebody saying, "Oh, sit down." Well, they didn't say sit down because that's my saying, but they said something like, "Shut up about Martial. He couldn't do what Sanchez did yesterday." And I thought, has anybody actually watched Martial this season? The assist to Pogba, cutting across the right foot and the dink over the back four. I could actually imagine that being Martial. He can do that. Yeah, everything Sanchez does, Martial can do, and let's not forget he can do that. I love Sanchez. I think he's a really good player, but he's not doing things that Martial couldn't do. As for should Martial stay and fight? I don't know what he can fight for. It's like you know, fucking for virginity, isn't it? You know, it really is, because pardon my language, but
it's gone past that point.
He can't get it back because he's done. He's 3 players of the month. The week before we signed Sanchez, we beat Burnley 1-0 because he won us the game. He's been very good this season. He's done everything he can do. But as much as I love Martial, and as much as people are saying, Omar says it makes me sick to the core that we can sell him, I think I've got to the point now, I do love Martial. I want him to be a success at Manchester United. But I can also see abundantly clear that Jose Mourinho is the manager, and I feel I've got to back the manager, especially after yesterday, and trust in what he's doing. And unfortunately, although I don't agree with it, he went and bought a left winger in January when he already had 2 very good left wingers performing very, very well. He went and bought one to play there. And Sanchez is his man. And Sanchez is going to be his man for the next 2 years. And that, for me, if you're Martial, you may as well go. And it's sad, but you may as well go. What can he do? What more can he do?
I don't think, and I'm going back to LVG, when United bought Martial, and it was the quote that I bought this player for the next manager. I believe LVG thought the next manager was going to be Ryan Giggs. And I think that there's no love lost between Jose and LVG. And, you know, like you said, Martial's not his man. Sanchez is his man. He's the player that he wanted. He courted. He stole away from Manchester City. Obviously, he wants him in the side. So there's going to be a cost. And the cost is that Martial hasn't necessarily featured as frequently as he would or we would like to see him. It may be the time for him to move on. But then, you know, it's easy to say, oh, he's not going to do well at United. He could do well, but it's about time. And like with all Man United fans, you want to see your best players play every week, but sometimes that's not possible.
Karam Banzai says, I prefer Sanchez and Lingard because of work rate. And Genocide 1996, on form or not, Sanchez is world class. Martial could be world class, but doesn't like it will be at United, unfortunately. I do agree with that. I'm not saying that Sanchez is the better player, but Martial could do what Sanchez did yesterday, and he is. Martial is what Manchester United's all about. A young player, develop them. Sanchez is about what Man City and Chelsea are like. buy the player complete, don't put the development work in. And Mourinho likes to not do that. He doesn't want to put the work in. It will make me sick to the core, like Omar says, if Martial goes in the summer. But my line I'm putting out now is that I expect it to happen. I don't know what Martial can do to convince Mourinho, and I think it is as simplistic as Rodney says there. Martial's not Mourinho's man. Sanchez is. He wants Sanchez. There was no reason to sign Sanchez as a left winger. We all thought he was going to be a number 10 or a right midfielder because we were like, we've got Martial and Rashford sorted on the left. Sanchez comes in at the central or goes right, and then he puts him on the left. To me, baffling, ridiculous thing to do when you've got two players like that. But I think we need to move on from it because I do sadly think that Martial's days are numbered at United, and not just because Mourinho doesn't want him. I think Martial's would be foolish to stay. He's got to look at his own career as well, and that's the only thing that bothers me slightly at the moment because, as I said, so positive about yesterday. Martial could be above Sanchez's level, says Aksha. Look, you know what? I'm terrified of him going because I think he'll go on and be a fantastic player, and it'll always be we had him. But I just don't feel that Mourinho wants to use him. I mean, why is he not giving him 10, 20 minutes in the last couple of games? He's gone for Rashford, hasn't he? And as much as I love Rashford, Martial's a better player. He is.
Yeah,
I'll argue that.
Technically gifted. He's got such balance and poise on the ball. And
best finisher in the team.
I've never seen a penalty taker like him. He's so cool. So cool.
He's the best finisher. He's the best finisher. Yeah, he is.
So cool.
And for those of people who don't get what Martial's about, even if you just look at his clips of assists and goals this year, I mean, the season didn't start when we signed Sanchez. We actually did play quite well for 5 months, and he was a big part of that. But yeah, I think you know what, it's a shame to talk about it after such a great result yesterday, but I know a lot of people did. And remember, we've got the Skype show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock if there's anything you want to talk about from tonight or that's bugging you that we haven't spoken about. Sonny the Dude says, I've got a theory. What if Jose thinking Martial is Lukaku backup and Rashford is Sanchez backup and Lingard for Bale Williams backup? Yeah, I believe it when I see it. The reality is, though, if you're Lukaku's backup, you may as well go because he never gets dropped and he plays every minute.
Yeah, I mean, Mourinho must have an idea about Lukaku just in case he gets injured, and it's going to have to be Rashford as a backup. But Rashford is going to play out wide on the left for the considerable future, you know. But he is a number 9. The worry is, again, going back to the Martial thing. If he's looking to strengthen the squad in other areas, he's going to need to generate cash. He's going to need to kind of rejig his thinking about what players need to go and what players need to stay. And you have a surplus. We're really lucky when you think about the actual attacking players at Manchester United that we're in this position that after a result where they come back from 2 goals down, we're talking about a player that didn't even get onto the pitch and start.
Yeah,
you know, and that's the reality. Is that good? We kind of think, oh, it would have been great if. You know, it's one of those things. And if he was part of Jose's plan as a substitute, he would have come on. He would have come on, but he didn't. So
it's very sad. Not to everybody, because not everyone will agree. It's very sad personally. I really like Martial, but I think I've woken up and smelt the coffee on this, and all the hope I was clinging to. Yeah. He's just not the man for Mourinho. He would be for me every day of the week. He'd be in my starting 11, but Mourinho got us that result yesterday, and you've got in my mind, I think he's the right man for Manchester United, Jose Mourinho, and I can't go against him just because of one player that I think should be part of this future that we've got. And I thought what he did yesterday was brilliant. So, you know, you don't always agree with your leader, do you? But you trust them, and that's where I sort of feel with it at the moment. But it's very, very sad about Martial, if it happens, which I think it will. Please do drop a like on the video. A lot of people have already, and remember, subscribe if you are new. But there was a positive yesterday, and I want to shade some positivity on Jose a little bit more here, Rodney, because Marouane Fellaini was fit yesterday, fit and raring to go, and he didn't even end up on the bench. What's gone on there? Because that, you know, we can talk about we're not parking the bus anymore, and we can talk about Mourinho's change since the international break, but a lot of people were saying he cannot use Fellaini anymore. That is symbolic of everything he's been doing wrong. He can't use him anymore, and he hasn't. He didn't even get in the match day squad. So what's gone wrong there? All right, why is his golden boy can't even get him on the bench now? We'd normally chuck him on for the last 5 minutes.
I think he's, in a world of banter, he stopped smoking, and the smoke has cleared. I'm glad. I am so glad he's nowhere near the squad, let alone in the first team or on the pitch. What's changed? Who knows? But it's for the better. Don't need Marouane Fellaini. We've been hoodwinked for far too long as fans that this guy is a Manchester United player in any way, shape, or form.
Maybe he's just said, I'm not going to sign a contract, and Jose said, well, you're not getting in the team then.
Well, that's fair enough. And I think that's right. If you're not going to sign a contract, don't sign one. Leave, go somewhere else and sign. But Manchester United have offered him supposedly a contract. He wants more money. He doesn't deserve it, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't add any value to the team in any way, shape, or form. He can leave. He could leave now. As far as I'm concerned, he's left. I'm glad.
Another player I want to talk about, I mean, he was my man of the match, but I would have given him a 4 out of 10, but I still would have given him man of the match because you got 2 assists from Sanchez, didn't we? We got 2 goals from Pogba, and we got 2 Stonewall penalties from Ashley Young. That's why he'd be my man of the match. I just think it's brilliant. The amount of meltdown he caused with those 2. But on a serious point, I do feel that is obviously an area we're going to have to sort out in the summer. Now, Mourinho, we've just spoken about Fellaini there. We've spoken about Martial. He has these weird little intricacies that a lot of the fans don't agree with. I think one of them would be Ashley Young. I mean, Luke Shaw wasn't even in the squad. He was fit, not in the squad at all. But every time I watch Ashley Young, I just think you can't defend to save your life. You cannot defend, mate. And it would have been a harsh harsh handball in the first few minutes, and we already went 2-0 down, so I think that's irrelevant. The tackle on Aguero was just stupid, but he got away with it. But it's more than that. Sterling actually tore him apart a lot through that game.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley Young is one of those footballers who's doing his best while he can in terms of his playing years at a club that's really, really big. And he knows this, so he's playing out of his skin, but it isn't necessarily always going to be 100% for Manchester United. He cannot defend. He's naturally not a defender. No matter how many years he's played, maybe for the last 2 or 3 years, he's been able to play at left back. But when you've played on the left or right wing from the age of 12, and your main thought is to go forward and attack, it's difficult to change your mindset, and it's difficult for you to get into positions where you understand as a defender, I need to do these things. I cannot dive in here, And some of his defending, if you said he was 19, you'd understand, because he's still learning the game. But Ashley Young is a seasoned professional, and when he does those tackles, you kind of like closing your eyes, thinking, is he given a penalty? Is he being sent off? It's an area that definitely needs to be addressed. But for me, it begs the question about the individual that isn't playing, Shaw, and what that means for him.
Well, I don't want to spend too long on Shaw, but he's clear. If we're debating that Martial's probably going, Shaw's already gone as well, isn't he? I mean, there's just no way back.
No, I think. Ashley Young has got that left back slot sealed. He's got it sealed, and Shaw definitely looks. I think if Shaw left and he played at another club, he'd look 1 stone lighter than he currently is right now.
He needs football, doesn't he?
He does.
D. Rackala Boy 10 says, I think Mourinho was just building a propaganda around Fellaini to get more money for him in the transfer window. Well, I hope he's built it now and he can do one.
Yeah.
Prince R9 says, Mark wearing a blue shirt. Well, Manchester's red. It is.
It's a shirt of commiseration.
Yeah,
Mark.
I'm subliminally mocking them. Guys, remember it's my birthday on April the 12th, says Helen. Well, happy birthday. We'll try and remember that. Young defending is pure rubbish, says Andrew K. And what does he offer going forward? Run to the corner and hit ineffective crosses. I thought Ashley Young I felt Ashley Young was poor yesterday, but I still give him man of the match because that tackle on Aguero caused so many problems for Man City fans that it was worth getting away with it. You know what? It was a penalty. I've got no problem with it.
It was a penalty.
But De Gea would have saved it. And anyway, and also we've played them twice at Old Trafford in the last couple of years and had dodgy decisions not given to us. It's called football. You know, you don't always get those things, and that's the beauty of it. And we've had loads go against us, so it's you know, I thought it was funny, and we got what we needed a little bit of luck, and we've got it. And that result yesterday, if it had gone the other way, God knows what we've been talking about tonight, because you know, there was a lot of angry fans at half time, and you know, looks like we've got second place sewn up now, which you know, I can't think of any game that we've got left this season now. I think we've got 6 left. Arsenal at home is probably the...
Arsenal at home.
It's not tricky at all, that they'll probably have played on the Thursday night. So it's looking good for second place. And that is... It's progress, but for me, we've only really seen progress in the last 2-3 games. The whole season is just a bit meh because of the way we've played in it. Yeah.
Do you know something? I'm not, the fact that Man United are second. I'm not jumping around about, really. I mean, Man United. I know it means a lot to some people, but for me, I think the most important thing is actually getting a trophy while we can. I think that as it's great beating Manchester City and stopping them from winning the title, but we know they're going to win the title. I'm more concerned about Manchester United having silverware. Being second, and it may not be to everyone's cup of tea. They think, "Oh, what are you talking about?" I think when a team is so far ahead, being second is irrelevant, you know, because we can't really catch them. So what we really need to think about, from my personal point of view, is to get a bit of silverware, and you know, that we can, you know, get the old silver polish out and rub that down and put it in the trophy cabinet. Because
that's probably the most exciting bit, the FA Cup, isn't it? Because it's not easy. It's Spurs and potentially Chelsea, so very difficult end to the season. Actually, even if we do win it, we can't be shouting from the rooftops. I mean, I will be because I want to win it, but Van Gaal won that and got the sack. So you know,
exactly.
It's not like yay, we've won the FA Cup. I mean, I will be because I want to win it. But what I'm saying is, it's not like necessarily a success just because you win the FA Cup.
No, it's not. It's not a success. But for me, I think being second in this league or this season doesn't hold anything for me, because I think because of Manchester City's dominance so far in terms of how many points they've accrued so quickly, that being second is almost kind of like, well, you're second. You didn't do anything apart from spoiling their party yesterday. As a Manchester United fan, I want something else to crow about instead of just saying, "Oh, we beat you at your ground." I want to be able to say there is a bit of silverware to say this is, you know, Jose's got another piece of silverware. And for me, that's what I'm interested in. Being second is great, but it's not gonna rock my boat until next season.
And Mark Crisp said it there about, you know, it's always good to finish the season on a positive, and that. I remember talking about that on the work up to the City game, was that actually we could have parked the bus yesterday and maybe got a draw. I think we probably would have got a draw because they didn't play number 9. Or they would have gone for it in the last 10 minutes and maybe they nicked it and everyone would have melted down, quite rightly saying, why did we park the bus? But because we didn't park the bus and we played the way that we did, especially in the second half, that's something to build upon, because it's like, we know we can do it. We know we've not been doing it enough. We're the only team to go to Man City and beat them this season, and there's a lot of things that we can build on. You know, Mourinho hopefully will now know that's the way to play, and he can start bringing in players to build that system. Because the one thing that's really frustrated me as well this season is every game it's a different 11, every game it's a different tactic, and I want to see us, you know, Man City, they can do it with their eyes closed. They know exactly what their formation is and how they move the ball around. And I think yesterday, all right, it means sacrificing the number 10, but we've struggled with the number 10 for the last 4 years, even going back to when Rooney was here. Getting rid of that number 10, letting Pogba be in a midfield 3, but having licence to get forward. Sanchez and a right-sided player, we need someone there. Lukaku up front. I think that's the way we build for next season.
I think definitely the skeletons of the team is there. You just need to add a little bit more flesh to it. And the right side, definitely, whoever that is, whether it's Bale or someone else, or if he can persuade Martial to take that position, who knows? Anything can happen between now and the start of the new season. But the left back, as we talked about, Young, the issue for me, which is why I found that Shaw's not necessarily always been in the team, is that because there's never been anyone that's been solid on the left side in front of him, and in either position, left or right, you need someone that's going to be there consistently. On the right hand side, we've had Valencia. He's been our main right back. On the left, it's been between Shaw, Young, maybe Shaw, Young, predominantly Young. But then in front of him, it's been, as you know, Sanchez, Rashford, Martial. At no point, whoever's on that side, have they built up a relationship with someone to say, this is how we're going to play, this is how we're going to build going forward.
Yeah.
And the left-hand side is an area in the defence. And I think once that's sorted out in terms of a left-back and a right-sided midfield player, I think Manchester United would, well, I mean, it's not to say they haven't done well this season, but hopefully do much better than they've done so far this year.
Well, Mourinho says we're in second place and the team have not really clicked, and that just goes to show you what I've said a lot. This season, the Premier League's crap, and Man City have annihilated a lot of teams because they've not had the ability to deal with Man City like Liverpool and United have in the last week. But United are second in the league comfortably, and we haven't played that well. And it just, what if we'd played well, we'd be a lot closer to City and we'd be on record points ourselves. So I think we've got 71 or 72 points at the moment with 6 games to go. We could get 89 points. So that would be normally more than enough to win a title. So it just shows you we've not played that well, and we've got that many points. So imagine what we can be if we do quite well. And Jaden02 says, I think the Sevilla game was actually a blessing in disguise because it was an epiphany moment for Jose. Exactly. I mean, it's a good point, Rodney. Because
it's a very good point,
actually. If we got through playing that conservative football, it probably would have continued for the rest of the season into next season, and we never
would have seen Fellaini.
Yeah, with Fellaini, and we never would have had what we've got now. So yeah, Sevilla game still rocks me, but actually, it could be the thing that changes the course of where we need to go.
Yeah, I mean, that is, like I said, a very good point. It's taken a positive from a very bad game in terms of the result. I mean, I was doing, I think, the watch along with you actually, and it was dire in the first half. So to look at it that way, I would say it was a game that marked the change from what we see right now. Hopefully, the result and the performance from the second half yesterday will continue for the rest of the season, and Jose sees and acknowledges and understands that is what not only United fans, but I think that the hierarchy in the club, and probably even some of the former players that have criticised him consistently this season, want to see. And I think if they play like that for the rest of the season, I think the individuals like Paul Scholes and the others will kind of like get on board and be more Jose in than Jose out, or the team's playing terribly and they need to do something else.
Yeah, and going back to what we said a few minutes ago as well, I'm not, I am Mourinho in, and I think the way we played yesterday was really, really good, but I'm not going to leave myself wide open to when it goes wrong again. Oh yeah, because I still think it's just a step forward, and we have made 2 steps back many a time under Mourinho. So I just think let's see what happens. A lot of good came from yesterday, but we've got to continue that, and I think we have got to beat Spurs, and it's not acceptable to lose that. The progression is still, you've got to do that. And I do agree with Red Jedi, who said actually we were clicking, and then Mourinho bought Sanchez. It worked yesterday, but that Sanchez signing did knock us for 6. We lost Martial, Pogba, Rashford wasn't getting picked, Lingard's form disappeared for a couple of months as well. It was a weird signing. I think in the long term, hopefully it's going to be a good signing. But it was a weird signing, and it did disrupt a team that, in the main, was doing very well, especially around November time and 4-0 FC at the start of the season. So, there is that aspect. But again, we're talking about mistakes of Mourinho, which I think we need to wipe the slate clean and give him this opportunity now. I think he definitely has to be given that 3rd year, and he will be. So, yeah.
I'm going to add something to that in terms of the 3rd year. I think earlier I said that people will change their mind about him. I think he'll stay beyond the 3rd year. I think
if it goes well, he will.
I think Mourinho will be at the club a lot longer than people will expect.
You've probably just ruined some people's nights, because
Yeah.
there are some people who still aren't convinced
My
by him. But
job is
hopefully,
done.
you know, they gradually will be coming back
Yeah.
on side again.
I've achieved.
Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Please do drop a like on the video before you leave. We are back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with the Skype show, and 1 o'clock tomorrow. I must remember, I've got the tweets and the tactics analysis and all that, so we do that at 1 o'clock tomorrow if you can join us for that. But 8 o'clock tomorrow night as well for the Skype show. So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for Rodney for coming on.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thank you very much.
Not a problem at all. And thanks everyone for watching tonight. Really, really enjoyed it, and what a weekend it's been. See you all tomorrow.
Very, very good. Very good.